Several months after Angie Samota was savagely raped and murdered, the prime suspect, Russell Buchanan, hired an attorney and refused to speak with police. Several months after that, he left the country. It seemed suspicious, but without enough evidence to arrest Russell, police could not stop him. Russell was not arrested or charged with Angie's murder. He went on to become a successful architect. Now, 28 years after Angie Samota was murdered, Russell is talking once again about what happened that night and about Angie. Her friends describe her as the kind of girl that guys get crushes on.
Maybe so.
Possible that you had a crush on her?
No, not at all. I hardly knew her.
But after questioning Angie's friend Anita about that shared night out, investigators wrote that she told them that the evening centered around Russell and Angie, and that Anita felt as if she were along for appearances' sake only.
It certainly didn't occur to me that it was Angie and Russ event. It was the three of us. I remember Anita and I sitting at the table visiting while Angie was out on the dance floor dancing.
Russell had told police Angie and Anita had dropped him off around 1 a.m., and he then went to sleep. For him, that was the end of the night. Your alibi was you were home in bed.
Yeah, and there was no way to prove it, unfortunately.
The police theory was that you, after you were dropped off, walked back to Angie's house, knocked on the door. She let you in because she knew you. You already had a thing for her. Something went wrong. You attacked her. You had sex with her. You raped her. And then since she knew you and she could identify you, you stabbed her to death.
That's what they thought.
And so, in the days after the murder, police started picking up Russell after work and bringing him down to the station for questioning.
It seemed like 2 or 3 times a month for 6 months. As they got towards the 5 to 6 month time period, there was a significant shift in the tone and tenor of the interrogation.
More accusatory.
Outright accusatory. I recall in detail the detective leaning back in his chair with an envelope of photographs of the crime scene. They were absolutely horrific. He would hold them up in front of me, and his questions were, Russell, this looks familiar, doesn't it? You remember this, don't you? Because you did this.
We think you did this.
No, it wasn't we think. It is you did this. You had sex with her, you killed her. You stabbed her 18 times.
But Russell continued to deny it. That steady drumbeat of accusation and denial ended only when Russell hired the attorney and refused any further free trips downtown. And the murder of Angie Samota then went cold for years. Then, in 2004, 20 years after the crime, Angie's friend Sheila, by then living in Nashville, decided to act on something she'd thought about for a while.
I actually had felt Angie around me for a while, and then I was doing homework for the Bible study class, and all of a sudden I look up, and as you're sitting there, there was Angie. And then I thought, it's time. And I called the police.
And said?
I wanted to know about the Angela Samota case, who was working on it, if they were working on it, and if they weren't, would they reopen it? And at that point told me nobody in 20 years had called, not one single phone call.
That prompted Sheila to take a big step. She decided to get a private investigator's license to see if she could learn enough about crime and criminals to actually help solve Angie's murder. At the very least, she wanted Dallas police to take her seriously. She earned her license in 2006 and called the police again.
I said, I'm a private investigator. You need to send me all the information on Angela Samota's case. and I need to talk to the detective, and I need you to tell me, you know, what has been done, what hasn't been done, where's the information, where's the evidence, all of that. Wasn't well received at all.
But they met with you to talk about the case.
No, no.
They gave you the evidence.
No, no.
They gave you regular updates.
No. None of it.
Doesn't sound to me like it helped to be a private eye.
It did not. So after finding out they were not going to welcome me into the investigation, I started making phone calls to him. And the first 50 phone calls went to the lead detective who had been moved to traffic. Got nowhere with him. And finally one day, 6 months into it, I talked to a receptionist who said, he's in retirement. He's not even working traffic.
Wait a minute. You left 50 messages in 1 month?
Yes, I'm a little obsessive.
Sheila's persistence paid off. She eventually was put in touch with the investigator looking at cold cases. A woman who dusted off the old Angie Samota files, took a look inside, and found some promising evidence.
In 2006, when she decided to reopen the case, she went over to the lab and realized that they did have a rape kit. They did have a sample that, in today's technology, could be tested to try and find a DNA standard.
By 2006, of course, DNA testing had evolved. Some of Angie's other friends also approached police about reopening the investigation, but it was Sheila who eventually made more than 700 phone calls over the years, trying to move Angie's case forward. She even offered to pay for the DNA testing herself.
And I said, okay, I'll send you a check. I'll overnight it. Who do I make it out to? She said, we can't do that.
You can't do that?
You're not allowed.
That's something police departments pay for, not PIs.
Right.
Finally, in 2008, the DNA sample from Angie Samota's cold case was entered into the national database. To Sheila Wysocki, the frightened co-ed turned mom turned private eye, the pieces were about to finally fall into place. You still focused on the theory that Russell Buchanan did it and got away with murder?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Found out he was still in Dallas, that he was actually a professional, and I kept thinking, why is this man having a good life after he had murdered Angie? It was going to be solved, and Russell was going to go to jail.
Well, just a minute. If it were that easy, do you think this story would be on Dateline?
Coming up, the case is cracked.
The detective said, we got him. My mind immediately went to Russell. Who else could have done it?
Good question. But the last thing she was prepared for was the answer. When Dateline continues.